The 3DS has one of the more underrated libraries in Nintendo's history. It was originally released in 2011 and was supported with new games through 2019. The 3DS helped me get back into gaming after I was losing interest towards the end of the DS and Wii era, so here are my personal top 10 3DS games. Number 10, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Let's start things off with a game that sparked plenty of debate over the years, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I know a lot of people are split on this one, some love its more mission-focused structure, others miss the big mansion in the original. I actually do prefer the structure of the other two games more, but I've still really enjoyed Dark Moon. What makes Dark Moon stand out to me is how much it expanded the world. The idea of multiple mansions with unique themes really gave the developers room to be creative. Gloomy Manor, haunted towers, old clockworks, each one had its own vibe and personality. It felt like opening a new chapter in a haunted storybook, even if the structure felt more segmented. There was clearly a lot of work put into each part. Gameplay-wise, the vacuum mechanics were smoother than ever. The puzzles were clever, the ghost catching was satisfying as ever, and Luigi's personality once again shined through like his flashlight on Ghost. There was also more enemy types, more environmental interactions, and an upgrade system that made progression feel rewarding. And then there was Scare-Scraper. I can't even count how many times I spent playing that mode with friends. It was just chaotic and hilarious. Running through procedurally generated floors, trying to find keys, clear out ghosts, and not get left behind was always a blast. Even if the main campaign didn't hit as hard for me as the original or Luigi's Mansion 3, the multiplayer mode alone makes Dark Moon a memorable part of my 3DS library. This list is also, like I said, my personal opinion. It's not meant to be objective, it's just the 10 games I enjoyed the most. Number 9, Fire Emblem Awakening. I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about the series. I picked it up during a trip to the Nintendo store in New York because as a Smash fan, I obviously knew what Fire Emblem was, but wanted to finally give it a try. Within hours, I was completely hooked. The characters felt much realer than typical Nintendo characters, the battles were intense, and the story had actual emotional stakes. I remember overthinking every decision, terrified to lose one of my favorite characters, until I realized I was not playing on the hardcore mode. The relationships that developed between units made every encounter on the battlefield feel a little personal. What really sets Awakening apart for me was the relationship system. Watching characters grow close, get married, and even having kids who would later join your army was amazing. It gave the game a personal touch I hadn't experienced in any other title outside Tomodachi Life really, which I may or may not talk about later. It was like playing through a fantasy drama with battles serving as pivotal moments in the narrative. I tried playing Fates afterward, but it just never really got me hooked the same way. Awakening really made me appreciate what tactical RPGs could be, even if I'm still not the biggest fan of the genre. Number 8, Super Mario 3D Land. It was one of the first games I picked up when I got my 3DS, and I still remember the feeling of going into another 3D Mario just a couple years after I played Galaxy 2. 3D Land isn't the biggest or most unique Mario game, but finally a brand new 3D Mario game on the go. It struck a nice balance between classic 2D Mario platforming and 3D exploration. The levels were short and sweet, but packed with fun mechanics. Now the 3D effects weren't the best and was really only used for select parts, but I don't really put that on the game. The 3DS's 3D was just never good to begin with. The return of the Tanuki suit was also a nostalgic bonus, and the special worlds added a nice challenge after you thought the game was over. It's not my favorite 3D Mario game by a long shot, but it's still one I look back on with a lot of nostalgia, and it's still a game that all Mario fans should play. Number 7, Mario & Luigi Dream Team. I've always loved the Mario & Luigi RPGs, and Dream Team was the last truly great entry in the series before things went downhill. Try new things while keeping the core of what made the series so fun. Wacky humor, engaging turn-based combat, and memorable characters. The story takes Mario and Luigi to Pillow Island, a dreamy, mysterious place filled with pillows that unlock access to the dream world. The dream world mechanics were a blast. Being able to dive into Luigi's dreams and explore surreal, shifting environments was a creative twist. Dream battles took the combat to new levels of creativity. Luigi's subconscious could summon dozens of mini Luigis, and the game made full use of the 3DS hardware by turning the system sideways during giant boss battles. These moments were cinematic and tactile. You swiped, tapped, and tilted your way through epic fights that felt like major events. What I especially loved was how the game's humor leaned into Luigi's personality. He's always been the underdog, the shadow of Mario, but here he was the literal dream hero. The villain, Antasma, was spooky and cool, even if he couldn't quite reach Fawful's legendary status. My biggest complaint was how long the tutorials dragged on, and the story definitely felt bloated in places. But even with those flaws, Dream Team was a deeply enjoyable RPG that reminded me why I love the series so much. Glad we finally got a new entry last year, but I think I still prefer Dream Team over it. Number 6, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Coming in at number 6 is a game that often lands much higher in other lists. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds is a phenomenal game, no question about it. The reason it's lower on my list is just personal preference, but I can definitely see arguments for having it much higher. A Link Between Worlds managed to strike the perfect balance between nostalgia and innovation. As someone who didn't grow up with A Link to the Past, it's hard for me to appreciate how the map was reconstructed but with more modern graphics, but it also wasn't just a remake. It was a brand new game with a a clever wall merging mechanic that added a whole new layer to exploration and puzzle solving. I found myself constantly scanning the environment for opportunities to slip into walls, and it was a mechanic that never got old. The freedom the game offered was incredible. Being able to rent or buy items from Ravio's shop early on gave you the power to tackle dungeons in almost any order. It felt revolutionary for a Zelda game, but I also really didn't mind some of the more linear progression in other games. Anyway, I've talked enough about Hyrule, but what about Lorule? Creative name, Nintendo, by the way. What a fantastic dark mirror to Hyrule, just like in A Link to the Past. The music, the design, the bizarro feeling of everything, it was just great. The dungeons were creatively designed and challenging, and the way they intertwined with the game's central mechanic made it a joy to solve puzzles and discover secrets. As for why it's only at 6, I don't know, I'm just basing this off my own personal enjoyment of each game, and I feel like I just enjoyed the next 5 games a little more. And number 5, Pokémon Omega Ruby. Omega Ruby holds a special spot for me, not because I'm a massive Pokemon fan, but because it's the only mainline Pokemon game I've actually ever finished. I've tried others, but none of them ever kept my attention the way Omega Ruby did. Maybe it was the setting, maybe it was the timing, but whatever it was, I was hooked. The Hoenn region felt alive and vibrant, from lush forests to underwater caves. I loved the tropical vibe and the emphasis on exploring both land and sea. I could still remember using Swampert to carry me through battles early on, and the remade graphics looked great for a 3DS game. But what truly cemented my love for this game was the Delta episode. After beating the main story, I thought I was done, and then I was soaring through the sky on Latios, fighting Deoxys in space. Felt like the finale to a Pokemon anime movie, and I loved every second of it. Omega Ruby actually made me think I was going to be a huge Pokemon fan, and even though it didn't, I'll always appreciate this game. Also, I always pronounced this Pokemon as Rayquaza, but apparently it's Rayquaza, and I'm just not going to be changing how I pronounce it. Number 4, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time 3D, and Majora's Mask 3D. Okay, I'm cheating a bit here, but these two deserve to be bundled. Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D weren't just remasters, they were my introductions to these masterpieces. I was born in the early 2000s, so the N64 and even GameCube era were before my time. Ocarina of Time was everything it was hyped up to be: the storytelling, the world, the music, it felt timeless. From pulling the Master Sword for the first time to riding Epona across Hyrule Fields, every moment felt iconic, and the 3DS version improved the experience in subtle ways. Better controls, enhanced graphics, and a second screen for item management, which really helps in the water dungeon. I respected the original while modernizing it, and Majora's Mask, on the other hand, hit me emotionally. The game's time loop mechanic created a sense of tension and sadness I hadn't experienced in other games. Couldn't save everyone, you had to watch the world end again and again, and yet that made every successful side quest, every saved character, feel meaningful. The Bomber's Notebook was a lifesaver, and it made the experience more manageable. Together, these games introduced me to Zelda's depth and heart, and they've stuck with me ever since. These games deserve to be arguably number 1 and number 2, but I'm just putting them at 4 since they aren't original 3DS games, and I want to save the top 3 for games that were released first on the system. Number 3, Tomodachi Life. Now, for something completely different, I first played it at a friend's house and instantly knew I needed it. There's something hilarious about watching your Miis that could be people you know, celebrities, total nonsense characters live their own bizarre lives. I filled my island with friends, family, made up people, and pretty much anything else. Then I sat back and watched as they formed relationships, got into fights, professed their love, and performed cringy concerts that I will not be sharing here since I did make the lyrics when I was like 11 years old. The humor was so weird and specific, it felt like playing a fever dream sitcom. What made Tomodachi Life special was how it kept surprising me. Every day brought something new, whether it was a rap battle, a dream sequence, a sudden existential crisis. It became a daily ritual. I'd check in, feed people, solve problems, and laugh at whatever absurd thing happened next. Even the song creator with its robotic voice was way ahead of its time in a way now that everyone has access to making AI music. I cannot wait for the new Tomodachi Life next year. Let me know in the comments if you're getting it too. Number 2, Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS. Smash 3DS could have been a disaster, a handheld version of one of the most technical, competitive games Nintendo makes, and yet it wasn't just good, it was amazing. It's where I truly learned the mechanics of Smash and began treating it as more than just a fun game to play at a friend's house, because I did play Smash Bros. Brawl growing up and I was pretty awful at the game, not gonna lie. The fact that they managed to squeeze the full roster and near identical gameplay from the Wii U version into a 3DS cartridge still blows my mind. Sure, the graphics were dialed back and the online could be laggy, but the fundamentals were rock solid. I spent hours just playing against friends and the level 10 AIs. I even competed in a few local tournaments using my 3DS as a controller because 12-year-old me thought it was the best controller. Somehow I even won a few of these. Then there was just the time I played it the most. My friends and I would gather before class every morning to play quick matches. I became a pit main and actually got really good while most of my friends would try out different mains. Smash Run was a cool mode too, even if it's not anything super special. simple, but a fun single-player experience. This wasn't just a game, it was a social event for me, and it brought people together and made my mornings more exciting. And at number 1, we have Animal Crossing New Leaf. New Leaf isn't just my favorite 3DS game, it's one of my favorite games ever. I poured who knows how many hours into my town just because it was so addicting. The shift to being the mayor was genius. Suddenly I wasn't just a resident, I had actual control. I could decide where to build bridges, what ordinances to pass, and how the town would grow. The small touches made the biggest impact. Waking up early to catch a rare fish, decorating my home for Halloween, writing silly letters to villagers, or even my future self, every little moment mattered. What made New Leaf special was how it fit into my life. If I was at some event where I had nothing to do, I would just go on my 3DS and go into my world. If I was on a road trip or if I was just bored, I would just get on New Leaf. The town felt alive, my villagers had stories, habits, and friendships. I still remember the first time one of them moved away and how strangely emotional it was. I used to try my hardest to keep certain villagers, so I would get on almost every day. New Horizons might be shinier and bigger, but New Leaf just had a charm that it didn't. It captured something that only the 3DS could, feeling of a private little world you carried in your pocket. I guess unless you carry your Switch in your pocket. Anyway, that's my list. That's my top 10 3DS games. Again, this is my personal list. This isn't meant to be objective. This isn't meant to be similar to your list. I'm sure all of you have very different lists, and all I ask is that you keep it respectful in the comments to other commenters sharing their opinions, because frankly, it doesn't matter what game someone enjoyed. All that matters is your own opinion. Everyone has their own stories with each game, their own preferences, so don't be quick to judge someone on what games they like. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And also, I'm using my new mic for this video, so let me know how it sounds if it's a big improvement on my previous videos. And thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.